We are going to look at the history of one of the most prominent Kenyans, especially when it comes to matters of justice and matter of election. The names that were on his ID were Zacchaeus Richard Mutsunga Chesoni. He had two names, one Christian, one traditional, and he used his father's two names, Christian and traditional. So the first name, Zacchaeus, was his. Richard was his father's. Mutsunga was his name. And Chesoni was his father's name. I want to tell you from the beginning that he was my relative. I was his uncle. Mrs. Hachiti Chesoni was a member of KHWATENGE grandmother number 1, and I am a member of KHWATENGE family grandmother number 3. So in English she's my cousin, and in African she's my sister. Zakayo Chesoni went to Lwandeti DEB Primary School. Then for his intermediate school, for the millenniums, and I'm very happy about the millennials. The feedback I'm getting is that they are around 69% more interested and in inquiry. They are seeing me as the link between now and the past. So I'm saying in those days, like we have brought back a CBC, there were schools that started from standard 1 to standard 4. These ones were called primary school. And then among some primary school, not all of them. For example, in one area, we had 4 primary schools. Then one of them did also have a wing that had standard 5 to standard 8. Now, for those, there are those schools that ended up in standard 4, they were just called primary school. And those who had standard 1 to standard 8 were called primary and intermediate school. So when somebody says, I went to a certain school for my intermediate, he or she means in standard 5, that is standard 5 to standard 8, that is where he or she went. So as I said, Zakayo Chesoni went to primary school in Lwandeti DEB. For his intermediate, he went to Chebwai SDA. I do not remember the second school he went, but he went to Makerere, where first he trained as a teacher. Then later he trained as a lawyer. You will find a good number of lawyers in Kenya. They first of all became teachers and then they became lawyers. He grew up in the law way, and he was the first African to become a judge in Kenya. He used to tell me, especially when he was the chairman of ECK, what IEBC used to be called then, when he was the chairman of ECK, he used to tell me that he was the only African in the High Court bench. And then, you know, by that time, there used to be only one court of appeal in East Africa. But when Kenya started a Kenyan Court of Appeal, he also joined the Kenyan Court of Appeal. Those days, he died before we even had Supreme Court. So when he was in the High Court, he was he used to stay among Wazungu. Then from there, he went and joined the Court of Appeal. He is also on record as the only person who was Justice Chesoni, then became Justice Chesoni retired, then became Justice Chesoni, then became Justice Chesoni retired for the second time, then later he became Chief Justice, and he died as a Chief Justice. The weakness that my nephew had, everybody has a weakness. I have a weakness, you have a weakness. His biggest weakness, I've told you, there's a time he was retired as a judge, then went back as a judge, then again he was retired. On both occasions, he liked betting, and he would bet and be declared bankrupt. The first time he was declared bankrupt, he went akajikaza, he raised the money, he was removed from the list of bankrupts, then he was taken to the Court of Appeal as a judge. Then the second time, he became bankrupt. Now, when he became bankrupt the second time, we do not know exactly what happened. And mine, I have to protect my reputation. People trust me, so I don't want to be seen to be giving information, and then the trust that has been there all that time be put on question. The second time he was bankrupt, we just found that he was nominated as chairman of the ECK, which at that time used to be called nowadays it's called IBC, but those days it used to be called ECK. A lot of people came up. You know, when you are bankrupt, you are not even supposed to be the chairman of the village cattle dip. So when he was asked, where did you get have you been cleared, whatever, he said, just go for the record, just go for the records. But there is a big suspicion that President Moi cleared that, and Chesoni became the chairman of the ECK. What people don't know about Justice Chesoni, there's a professor, I think he's from Nyanza, I've forgotten the name of that professor. There was a lot of problems in South Africa. There was a problem between Chief Buthelezi, Mangosuthu Buthelezi. I hope I've pronounced well. There was a problem between Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi with his Inkatha Freedom Party. And then there was a problem with ANC under Nelson Mandela. So the two, Justice Chesoni and the professor whose name I'll remember in another tape. Oh, young men and young women are very happy when they hear me saying tape. In another video. Now, these two went to South Africa, locked themselves in a hotel, these two Kenyans, locked themselves in a hotel with Mangosuthu Buthelezi and Nelson Mandela. And a handshake was there. Very few people know that Justice Chesoni did that. Another thing about Justice Chesoni, which he did while he was, you know, I believe that the initial ECK, even though Moi single-handedly chose, without what people nowadays fight for called public participation, Moi single-handedly chose all the commissioners. But the commissioners were so well. There was a statistician, there was a lot of lawyers, there was a lot of whatever. And it was immediately after the discredited 1988 Mlolongo election. These things you see about audit trail, the audit trail was manual during Chesoni's time. We have made it a bit better. Every election we improve it until nowadays we call it servers. But it is the way Chesoni sat down with his commissioners. They went around to several countries and started the audit trail, where they were having these forms called ECK Day 1, ECK Day 2. They are the ones, you know, in the ECK that time they had even accountants, so that they came up with an idea where you can take a Form 4 person with no accounting experience and tell him him or her how to properly account for. Since those people moved to Anniversary Towers, no electoral commission chairman has gone out. We can say the last one, Chebukati, could say that he was somehow successful or something, but some Kenyans may not agree with that. So I can say the most successful, the only person who came out who was wholly applauded by both sides was Zakayo Chesoni. He was made a Chief Justice and died in office. That one is the story for Zacchaeus Richard Mutunga Chesoni.